just have such an incredible story. I think everyone, especially with D2C brands, so popular today, we'd love to kind of hear more about your story. I know, really your motorcycle accident is what led you to create the first Theragun. You've been very hands-on, literally creating it with your own hands. So we'd kind of love to hear about your experience there and really the gap in the marketplace for a product like Theragun, and kind of, how you built the first product.
Well, it was out of necessity. When I talk about this, I share the concept of necessity is the mother of invention. And I didn't really consider myself an inventor. I consider myself a problem solver. Mm-hmm. I was a chiropractor here in Los Angeles in 2007. I had on a motorcycle splitting traffic. Car cuts me off on the freeway. I was going about 55 miles an hour, and I hit the side of this car. Obviously sustained a lot of soft tissue damage. Luckily, I didn't break bones or have to go to the hospital. But I suddenly now was a patient, and I suddenly now had this perception of the world through a patient's eyes. But I had the brain of school and knowledge and understanding of a chiropractor. And so what I was trying to do is look at my body, recognizing what was wrong and how can I fix it. There were a couple of issues that I had. Number one, time was not on my side because my hands are my tools and I couldn't feel my hand and I had to get back to work. And number two, more importantly, was the pain. The pain that had set in my body was unrelenting. And if you've ever had nerve pain, that's really kind of the best word to describe it. So here I am now, injured, going to my practice, getting treated by my chiropractor, my business partner, who was my chiropractor at the time. And he's spending the most time as he can, and it's probably about an hour. Well, then I've got 23 hours of the rest of my day where I've got to be in my head. I've got to deal with this pain. And I'm in the same position that other patients are in. I'm injured. There's apparently nothing I can do about it until I get back to the chiropractor. And it didn't sit well with me. I just couldn't live with that. And pain is a massive motivator. So my brother's a chiropractor, and he'd been in a water skiing accident about 2 years prior to my injury. And I remembered he had a neck injury as well. And I remembered him using something, a bunch of different things. And I called him and said, "What was this?" He told me what it was. And it was this round cylinder about the size of a Coke can. It's called a vibrocussor, and it would rattle or vibrate at certain frequencies. Well, it didn't have really any amplitude, which means it didn't really come off the body and back on the body. I didn't understand that at the time. Right. So I start using this thing underneath my armpit, like my brother told me, and it vibrates the tissue, and it would override the pain for a couple of minutes actually. And then the pain would start to settle back in. And just like your necklace you have on your neck or your watch or an earring or something, our body accommodates to that information. Otherwise, our nervous system would be going crazy all day with all the stimulus coming in. So I started to understand that this really worked on that level, but it wasn't really providing me that deep therapy and the pain relief that I needed. And so I started looking for something. And I thought for sure someone had to have made something like this. And they didn't. And so I'm sitting in my apartment in Culver City at 3:00 in the morning in early January of 2008. And I'm just like, my brain's going 100 miles an hour. And I suddenly now had no boundaries. The pain took away all the boundaries. I didn't care what you called this thing. I didn't care what it sounded like. I didn't care how it looked, what color. I didn't care any of that. I just needed something to fix my arm and my shoulder and my neck pain. So I made something. I went out to my tool garage and grabbed some tools and brought them in, and I made it. And I started using it on myself. And it was amazing. Leigh, it literally put my body in a state of relaxation. I could breathe. I started to get hungry again. My body started to kind of go back to what was normal. But I was addicted to this thing. I mean, I started using this every day I could for pain, to get in and out of the shower, literally, all the way up to where now I'm taking it to the gym in mid to late 2008. And it's just become my recovery tool. So what happened really, I think the fun story for me is not knowing at the time, I was sort of this library of information that I was gathering over those 6 to 8 months. Coincidentally, I go back to practice and I put it away. It had served its purpose with me. I kind of got better. And I didn't think I would need it on a daily basis so much anymore. I was using it for recovery and stuff. Patient comes into my clinic. I shared this story earlier with another physician who in Philly, and when you're seeing patients all the time, you're always thinking of them. You're not thinking about yourself really.
Right.
And this guy came in, and his paperwork was basically me all over again. Same age. Had been in a head-on bus collision. He had a really terrible neck injury on one side, and it's the first time I thought, wow, I wonder if this will work on him. So long story short, I used it on him, showed him how to use it. The message with this guy is the same message we share today in our brand. And I try not to get emotional about this, is that I felt powerless. And when I held this thing in my hand, I suddenly felt empowered. And I wanted him to feel the same thing. So I explained to him what I'd been through, that I'd just been through what he's going through. Take it home and use it. Bring it back and let me use it. So basically, I was the first patient. This guy was the second patient, and it just took off from there. From pro athletes to training rooms and personal trainers and physiotherapists. It's really kind of crazy how it's taken off.
No kidding. It's such a beautiful story. I mean, it must just be so rewarding to not only have been able to create this product and fix your own pain, but see it grow into this massive brand that it is today. So kind of leads well into my next question is, how did you go from creating this product, kind of, healing your own pain, to being inspired to create what Theragun became and now Therabody?
Well, I think in all fairness, Leigh, I realized there was something magical about this every time I used it on someone, and I just couldn't ignore it. And so I just went down that path. The first person thought it was amazing, and then I realized I needed to make more of these. So, I made 250 jigsaw. I bought 250 jigsaws from Kawasaki, brought them home, and I put them together myself, and had a couple buddies help me. And as I started selling them, I realized these guys are the perfect resources for information. So I would tell them, hey, look, I'm going to give you this thing. I think I sold it for like $300 at the time. And I want you to give me feedback. And I would just take the feedback and apply that to the next one. And then I'd do the same thing and apply it to the next one. And what really drove me was I know this is going to sound crazy, but I knew I was onto something. I just felt like this was really big. And I knew that I was a conduit. I wasn't going to be here as long as this thing is. But I knew there was something magical about it, and my experience allowed me to talk to it in a certain way that sort of spread throughout the world now. So I recognized my ability to be a conduit, and I think just following that energy and those experiences, when they say how did it grow, it just happened. I mean, it attracted some amazing people. We have such amazing people on our team. My business partner and the CEO of the company is one of them. I mean, the way we met and how that happened. I think the really cool thing is the people we have in our company understand that we're really changing people's lives. And I know that sounds dramatic, but when you can change how someone feels, that's pretty powerful. And I think that's one of the things I realized early on. And I recognized this wasn't about me. It's just about me getting out there as fast as I can and letting people know what it does. But what I've been doing behind the scenes for the last 12 years is just protocols, research, understanding what it does to the body, and then conveying that to our community.
For sure. Yeah. And it sounds like, you guys it starts with having an incredible product, right? And obviously word of mouth, you had a lot of kind of people who are already talking about your brand. But as you look back, you guys have obviously become massively successful. You're all over social. When we used to go back to the gyms, I saw you guys everywhere in the gyms. Hopefully we'll be back soon. But when you reflect now, is there something that, how did that happen? Are there any certain marketing tactics that you really attribute that success to for your massive growth?
You know what? Someone asked me this yesterday, and I don't know how to bottle this. I don't know how to market this. But I think there's something about this product that made you want to share it with someone you cared about. And when I'm talking to someone that I care about something that's made me feel a certain way, I'm not selling it. I'm sharing it. And I think the magic about Theragun as it grew is people were sharing it.
Right.
And once they, I would work with influencers early on, and I would tell them, look, I want to give you one, but instead of paying you a bunch of money, which I don't have right now, I want you to give me a list of 3 people who you care about the most in your life, and we'll send them a gift of a Theragun with a note from you. And so what I tried to do is get it off of my plate. I don't want that. I want other people to experience what it feels like to share something like this with other people. So Leigh, we started going to trainers. We realized that trainers are giving people. They want to make other people better. And we put it in their hands, and it started to sort of swirl, and it created this sort of storm around the trainers. And then we realized we need to educate them. We need to give them the tools to be able to talk about this. And then we recognize, oh, wow, we need to give them an opportunity to sell the product, because they can't just say, go buy one on the website. What's in it for them? And that's a fair question. So I think as we started to grow and you see this, there wasn't a pattern. We couldn't follow Apple. We couldn't follow Google. We couldn't follow Tesla. They didn't have this business model. So we just literally were just following these breadcrumbs. I feel like that the universe sort of set out in front of us. We just followed them and capitalized on it and made it easier for those people to share with their community. And that's honestly our business plan. I don't know that you can write that out, but it's you said it first, honestly. It's a good product and it works. If it didn't, I promise we wouldn't be talking right now.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because it sounds like you guys obviously had such an incredible product. You had a lot of celebrities, athletes, influencers talking about you already organically. Has that shifted at all since you guys have really become big? Is it still mostly just organic seeding with product, or is there more of like a strategic execution on the back end for you guys?
That's a fair question. I think initially, because of my relationship that I had with a lot of the celebrities that I've either worked with or worked on, or they were patients of mine, from celebrities to pro athletes, initially it was just organic. These guys wanted it, and I'm telling you, a lot of these guys bought it. I mean, I try not to kiss and tell a lot about who I would get to work with, and there's obviously laws about what I can and can't say as a practitioner, but it really became this, oh my God, I have to have one of those. And then they would go back and they would take it and share it with their group, their hairdresser, their trainer, their wife, and then it suddenly started to grow. So that was just, I think that was just feeding the fish, if that is a good metaphor. Just the fish were coming and we were feeding them. But now, obviously, as we've grown and we have presence in other parts of the world, we have to be strategic about it. So, I think you probably saw, we just signed Paul George. Yep. We just had Maria Sharapova invested with the company and is also a spokesperson. DeAndre Hopkins is the newest one that we just brought on. And we do have strategy around it. And the strategy really is, can they contribute to the growth of the company?
Right.
I've worked with guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, and the fee that he asks for, which is fair for him, won't bring the value that it does, that it could, relatively speaking. So it's strategy. Who can we get that can really share the message, understand our ethos, that this isn't just a product. It's an entire ecosystem around you that helps you be better, feel better, and be healthier. And once they kind of get that, then it's really just a matter of negotiating and figuring out, how does this fit well with us? So again, to answer your question, when it first started, there wasn't a strategy. It was just, hey, you want one? And my only collateral was, you got to spend a few minutes with me and I'll teach you how to use and how to talk about it.
Well,
now it's much,
guys.
now it's a lot more organized. We have a Therabody University. We actually have a university with courses inside of Therabody, and that's part of the collateral. But yeah, I'm excited with some of these people. Maria was a great addition. Her ability to articulate and talk about something like this, having played tennis as long as she did, there was definitely some strategy there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, speaking about growing the brand, obviously you guys became hugely successful with the Theragun products. I'd love to hear about more of the rebrand you guys went through in May, and shifting from Theragun to Therabody, adding in your CBD line, the brick and mortar locations. What inspired that, and kind of your vision for the future?
I think the comparison that I've had, and this may not be what you hear from someone else, but as a chiropractor, the Theragun is just one of my tools. My hands are another tool. Topical creams and lotions were another tool. Traction devices, home therapy devices, and as we started growing, and I got a chance to share this to different countries, I recognized that everyone was calling it Theragun, and Theragun is a product. Theragun isn't really a thought process. It's not an ethos. And so we recognize, my business partner and I, like, we need to take a step back, because we're not only going to provide Theragun, there's going to be other products. And so we were talking back and forth, and I had this concept of that Theragun is not prejudice. Your body is the same as my body to that thing. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what food you ate, what country you grew up in, what language you speak. It doesn't care. And so I started recognizing it works on every body. Every single body it touches, it works on. So that's how we came up with this Therabody concept. And now, to your point, Therabody is sort of this, we're providing natural wellness solutions that are scientifically backed and validated. And anything that fits under that concept should be available to people. And I feel like, as a chiropractor, when you come to my office, I'm going to give you all of that. It's not just the Theragun. So that's where the concept sort of came from. And with our CBD line, it had to be, we set a standard with Theragun, and it had to meet that standard.
Right.
And so we realized that to be able to come out with the 5 products we've come out with, they all need to be USDA certified. They all need to be validated by where the plant comes from, what the ground is that it's grown in, what the topical experience is that you're having, and then what it's actually doing to your physiology and your body. So that, if we called our Thera 1 product line a Theragun product line, that would be really weird. So it just sort of evolved. It evolved into what it is now. And I can't tell you how excited I am for the things that we're going to be able to provide. You know, our brick and mortar spaces are going to be something that I think a lot of people have a good experience at.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. And to that note, how would you say your target audience has really evolved or expanded as you've continued to grow and add these new products to your brand?
That's funny. I was on QVC. The first time I went on, I've been on there several times. The first time I went on, they gave me this form, and they told you what you can and can't say. And one of the things I can't say is I can't say it's for everybody. I was like, well, then what am I doing here? So they actually kind of backed up, and I think the goal is for every person, no matter what your title is, to understand that this works for you. And so our demographic went from sort of the low-hanging fruit were athletes, because they understood what it was. They got it right away. They didn't need a ton of education. And most of them had the finances. Now, as we've grown, we've had to meet that growth with our education. And now we have educational courses that help you apply it in military, in training, in your everyday uses. I mean, our app now is downloadable to my mom and to you. So now you can see how to treat your plantar fasciitis, or your low back pain, or headaches, or how to get over jet lag. There's 16 to 18 protocols inside our app that I've gathered over 12 years. I've watched work. And now with our 22 research studies and science we have, it's just all validated. So our products have grown. I'm going to get to your answer here. Our products have grown and evolved. And as they've grown and evolved, they've broken down barriers. G1 and G2, not in a spa. Too damn loud, ain't going to happen. But now you look at our products that we have now, our Gen 4 series, we're in spas, we're in hotels, we're in airplanes. Now you can suddenly take this as those barriers have been knocked down. There's also a lot of education we have to provide. So there's a massive amount of obligation on me and us as a company to make sure people know how to use this. Otherwise, it just becomes a fly-by-night thing, and that's not what it is.
For sure. No, I love that. And it sounds like you're really bettering everyone who has the chance to use your guys' products. And speaking of that, You're not only the founder, but also the chief wellness officer. Would love to hear, what is the most important thing to you about wellness? What does that mean for cultivating a company culture for both your employees and your consumers that really values wellness?
That's such a great question, Leigh. I think one of the things that's happening now, especially with COVID and the state of the world we're in right now, is we're not comfortable or used to being mindful.
Right.
When I say mindful, it's just, how am I moving? What am I thinking about? What am I eating? What are my intentions for that day? As the wellness officer for the company, it's globally, and I mean globally within our company, on a macro scale, on a micro scale, I'm looking at things. We talk about standing desks, ergonomics of our employees as they've been working from home. That's an issue. Some people don't have the space and they have to work on their kitchen table. And what things can we provide and advice can we give to people that are in those states, all the way up to having retreats and bringing people into the company that can teach our employees. I've had, with relationships that I have, we've been able to have some really neat people come in and present things around their space. The world is becoming more and more difficult to understand. And I think that starts with yourself, understanding what drives you, what motivates you, what's healthy for you. So my role as the chief wellness officer is to make sure that people are doing wellness, mindful things on a daily basis that allows them to become better.
Awesome. I love that. And speaking of COVID and just wellness and this craziness of 2020, what would you say is some of the biggest changes you guys have had to do to adapt to this new reality that we're living in, whether it's your marketing or obviously just your day-to-day company business?
I think I might be able to answer this pretty quickly. I feel like we're firemen holding on to a hose that is shooting out water at 1,000 gallons a minute. And it's just holding on to that hose. And I really feel like all we did was just re-aim our hose. We just sort of found a different target and really started shooting it towards that target. Our information, our content, our ethos, our soul never changed. It was the audience that it changed. The first sort of pivot we did was started working with hospitals. We donated to over 100 hospitals around the country, around the world, actually.
That's really cool.
And then the next thing we followed up with was education. Hey, you have this new thing and where you're working 14 to 20 hours a day. Let me show you how to use this in 2 minutes that'll change your life.
Yeah.
And that was one way. And then just finding ways to feed hungry people. I mean, right now with the homeless and the people that are going, without food, we donated 250,000 meals. So there's a lot. I think anyone that's in this world right now, you don't have to look that far for opportunities to be able to contribute and help other people. And that's really all we did. It just found opportunities and just re-aimed our hose.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like you guys are doing some really impactful stuff. And that's another question I had is there anything that you've implemented given these times in 2020 that you think are going to stick once, hopefully this is all behind us one day?
Well, I think the awareness that people have of their bodies, I think that's part of the reason that Theragun sort of grew. We didn't have a real big hiccup in our sales, but it just was a different audience. So I hope what changes, what sticks, is people recognize that, Leigh, we only get one of these vessels.
Yeah.
We can't cash it in. We can't trade in and get a new one. I mean, with all this cloning, maybe that'll happen one day. But I just think it's important we recognize we only get one body. How do you treat it? What do you feed it? How much sleep does it get? Who do you take it around? Who are the people that are influencing you? I'm hoping that this sort of gave everybody a reset. We have our retail centers are called resets. And I'm hoping that people get a reset, gives them a chance to sort of analyze what's important to them in their lives, be present and mindful of the people that you care about and the ones that are their loved ones, and be more aware of what's going on in the world with these people that are having injustices sort of, thrown on them. I think we could get diplomatic and political really quickly, but I think just having people understand that one of the things Theragun provides people is the opportunity to share. I think when you share something that you care about with other people, that creates a connection. We're disconnected as a community.
Yeah.
We have social media and information that's coming through our phones. We don't connect anymore. And I'm hoping that people can connect with their bodies and can connect with each other.
Awesome. I love that. And as a good segue, as you look ahead, I guess, to 2021, what do you envision for, I guess, the tech wellness space, the wellness space in general? Obviously, you guys are, innovators in the space. Is there any trends that you envision happening into 2021 next year?
Yeah, I think with all the wearable devices we have, with all of the tracking devices, you talk about our cell phones. I think we can learn a lot of information. The information that we've been provided in the last 3 years is more than we've ever been provided, I think, in the history of humans. And I think that's only going to accelerate. So I think as we move forward, I can see that us having a little bit more intelligence around us, but it's got to tell us what to do with that. I may have something that measures my heart rate variability, but what if it's not ideal? What do I do then?
Right.
I may have high blood pressure. I may be having some other health issues. I appreciate the importance and the information coming back to me, telling me what it is, but now I need to know what to do about it. That really is talking about changing behavior and changing habits. There's negative ways to change behavior and there's positive ways to change behavior. So for me, when you talk about going forward, if I had a magic wand, I would hope that everyone used the technology around them, especially in the health sector, to make themselves better. You can't help others if you're not healthy. And I know that's a simple concept and it's probably shared in a million different metaphors, but if your candle's not lit, I can't light someone else's.
For sure.
Understanding what all of this information is and what it can do for me and make myself better. That's sort of what we're hoping for as we move forward from military to I could go down through every different type walks of life.
For sure. I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks. We have in our last 10 minutes, we have a bunch of questions from the audience for you.
Sweet.
So
love this.
One question for you is do you have any advice for older brands who are just trying to get into the tech space? Obviously, Therabody is a newer brand. Do you have any advice to some, executives from older brands who are looking to get into the new world of tech?
No, I think one of the things missing, and it's one of the things that's a little bit tough to talk about, is what does your ideal consumer say about your product? And I think we're missing that sometimes. Our ideal consumer will tell you unequivocally how it makes them feel. I was on the phone this morning with a guy. I think I mentioned a physician in Philly, and he was a competitive tennis player. He's probably in his late 60s now, and he's an orthopedic surgeon. But him using the product on himself sort of helped him understand what it does for his patients. And I think if I could bottle up what he told me today and share that on Instagram, share it on Facebook, it's a different voice, it's a different perspective, and I think it stops people. I think what we have to do now, and I hate to use this metaphor, but when you're scrolling through Instagram, we want to figure out a way to make them stop and engage them. And look, my humble opinion is I think maybe getting someone it's changed their life and have them tell that story. And it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to save their life, but it has to change their life somehow. I think if you can reach in and grab those stories and tell that as an older brand, that's just, to me, that's sort of shedding the old skin and getting some new skin out and not being afraid of human testimonials.
Yeah. Speaking of that, another question is, what does innovation and flexibility mean to you, especially as a founder who you literally created the product with your own hands? Has it been important to kind of step back and let, innovation take its toll in order to grow how you have today?
It's been a dance. It's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit of us, and it's a little bit of that, it's a little bit of us. You can't be afraid to fail. I did a talk recently about how failure was my secret weapon.
Right.
And I think not being afraid of innovation, but also recognizing that I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
We've actually been able to reach out and find people who are really, really good in their spaces. And it's, that's not a new concept, but 2 brains is better than 1, and 7 brains is better than 2. And that's really how we've looked at things with innovation. And we also recognize, I had a guy come to me in 2013, and he said, he's from Silicon Valley, and he goes, "Hey, what if we put a chip in your Theragun and you actually gather data from that?" And I was like, "You're crazy. Like, that's never going to happen."
Yeah.
I was so wrong, because that's literally what we do now.
Right.
So I think I think just understanding that our paradigms are limiting, and that innovation doesn't care about your paradigm.
Yeah, totally. Makes a lot of sense. So another question we have is, obviously you guys have such a fun brand, really cool people talking about it. Do you have a favorite marketing program or campaign that you guys have run to date?
I think our Theragun Network is probably my favorite program. And that's the Theragun Network is you can sign up, become a member of the network, and then you actually can share coupon codes with the people in your circle. If I'm a trainer and I've got 7, 8, 10 clients a day and I'm talking to them and I'm using this, it now just gives me an opportunity to share something with them. And then I can also sell a product to them or share a code with them. Theragun or Therabody drop ships the product to them. And that trainer now can make a little bit extra money on the side. So to me, that's one of the funnest things, because it started out with just everyday people. Then it went to trainers, and trainers loved it. Now it's going to physios and chiros, because they have these one-on-one connections with their customers. I think one of the things that's really strong about Theragun I've watched, and it's probably one of the best blessings that I wasn't expecting, is how people connect with each other through the network.
I love that. Okay, another question we have here is, when it comes to communicating with your consumers, how do you think about the brand purpose, and how does that impact your approach to marketing?
It impacts it a lot. That's a great question. I think we sit back, and what we're trying to do is what I said a minute ago, Leigh, is we're trying to share with people the truth, which is, we just got a testimonial from XYZ and they said this. Oh my God, there's 7 other people that say the same thing. How can we share that message? I think it's not that difficult if you're sharing the truth about what's happening and we're not marketing. I think that really speaks to people's sincerity, their passion, and also us being respectful of how we share those messages. I mean, I get messages all the time from people that I can't share because they're either talking about someone they care about, or it's a little more personal than we can show as an ad, for example. But we try to duplicate or represent that as closely as we can, in a respectful way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we have a lot of Theragun fans in the audience, wondering if, and obviously you guys have a lot of really awesome things coming up. Is there anything, any new products, any new things that we can look forward to that you can tease out for us today?
You can look forward to a lot of things. My role in the company right now is product innovation and education. We have a really great education team that takes care of that, and I work with a really cool innovation and product development team. We're constantly trying new products, and at any given time, we may have half a dozen that are really close to what we call the finish line, but we've got to test them, and we have to make sure they're validated. So I can tell you, our CBD line is going to become a little bit more robust. We're still working on what that is and what that looks like. Our percussive therapy line will continue to grow. But I think what you'll find as we go forward, and I'm not sharing anything that I can't share right now when I say this. I mean, I'm being as honest as I can. We're doing everything we can right now with our current Theragun models to make them more easily implemented into your daily life, so that you're not reliant on muscle relaxers and pain relievers. Most of the problems we have in our life are musculoskeletal, And if I could teach you, Leigh, how to deal with your whatever your pain thing is without having to take something in your body that's breaking down your body inside, that's our ultimate goal. And so that's a hard question. You put me on the spot with that one. We're constantly working on products and innovating, and hopefully we've launched 4 new products in 4 years. And 3 of those product lines had multiple products within that line. So you'll see that continually as we move forward.
Well, that's super exciting. We have about a minute left. Is there any last message you want to leave the Brand Innovators audience with before we finish up today?
I think it's important that we take the time to understand our own bodies and connect with our own bodies. The Theragun has allowed people to find areas on their body they weren't familiar with. And I know that seems really elementary, but my goal, what I would hope for, is that people can connect with their bodies better, understand what they're doing with this vessel that we live in, and they're more mindful of what's going on around them, and that they set good intentions. Absolutely. That's really powerful, and really appreciate this conversation today. Thank you so much, Dr. Jason, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Leigh. Appreciate it.
You too.
Thanks so much, Dr. Jason. I really, really connected with you because your message is so heartfelt, and it just shows that you truly live the life that you preach. And you know, that's really powerful stuff. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
And Leigh, this is Leigh's first interview. She did a phenomenal job. I think Jason will agree.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys both so much. All right, so now we are turning